Writing conditional code is a common practice in all programming languages. Conditional code is commonly called an if-then or an if-else clause. Now I'll go into the details of the if keyword and its associated keyword else. To demonstrate this, I'll start with an integer variable that I'll name month number, and I'll give it a value of 0. Now, when you're working with date and time values in Java, traditionally, month numbers are indexed starting at 0. So 0 means January, 1 is February, and so on. There's a newer package that was introduced in Java 8 that changes this to indexing starting with 1, but you can't use it everywhere you program in Java. For example, if you're coding in Java for Android, you might still have to use the older approach. So I'm going to assume I'm using the older libraries. Month number 0 means it's January. Now I'll write some conditional code. I'll type the keyword if and then press Tab, and that creates a pair of parentheses. Your conditional expression must go between the parentheses. I'll evaluate the expression month number equals 0, and I'm using the double equals equality operator. Next, I'll hold down Control and Shift and press Enter on Windows, or I'll hold down Command and Shift and press Return on Mac, and that completes the structure of the if clause. It adds a code block, a pair of braces, and now I can add code between the braces that will be executed if that condition is true. I'll output to the console, it's January. Now I'll move down to the next line and I'll type else, and then once again I'll use the keyboard shortcut to complete that clause. And then I'll use the sout template and say it isn't January. And when I run the code, I'm told it's January. Now I'll come back up here and change the month number from 0 to 8 and run the code again, and I see that the code in the else clause is executed. Your conditional expression can be a simple expression like this, or you can use a compound expression. I'll change my expression by adding an AND operator. That's the double ampersand. And the second part of the expression also has to evaluate to a Boolean, and I'll say if month number is less than or equal to 2, and I'll change this first part of the expression to is greater than equal to 0. And I'll change the output to you're in quarter 1. Now let's say that in addition to the if statement, I wanted to evaluate another expression. Before the else clause, I'll add an else if. It's 2 separate words, and then I'll once again complete the clause, and I get a pair of parentheses, and the next expression will look like this. Else if month number is greater than equal to 3, that would be April, and I'll evaluate month number less than or equal to 5. Now, I'm going to duplicate a line of code. I'll move the cursor up one line and press Control-D on Windows or Command-D on Mac. And then I'll cut and paste the new line of code and put it down here into the else-if clause. And I'll change that to you're in quarter 2. And then for my else clause, I'll say it's the second half of the year. After I do a bit of coding like this, I'll reformat my code. On Windows, press Ctrl-Alt-Shift and L, or you can find out the keyboard shortcut for your operating system by going to the menu and selecting Code, Reformat Code. I'll run that code again, and I get it's the second half of the year. I'll change the value to 4, and I get you're in quarter 2. So that's the basic structure of an if clause. An if clause can have as many else ifs as you want, and it can have one optional else clause. The if clause has to go at the beginning, any else ifs, if you use them, have to go after that, and the else clause, which is also optional, goes at the end.